Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Finance Bunch Presents Girl Talk. Today we have in our studio and on our show the beautiful Marrin Costello. She's a very good friend of mine, and she's a successful owner, designer, and creative director of Marrin Costello Jewelry. She's going to take us on a wonderful walk, not only through her jewelry line, but some tips that she has for you if you decide this is something you might want to pursue. So come along with us for the ride. I'm so glad you're here, and welcome to Girl Talk. I'm your host, Charlene. I am so happy that we're able to
finally
get together. Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's only a year in the making.
That's all. That's all. But you know, with all that you do, it's an expectation that you would be busy. And we talked about busy, so there's a lot we're going to cover today in a small amount of time.
Yes.
So I'm excited to get started.
Me too.
Now, how long have you had your business?
So the word business means a lot to me, right? Because I've been selling since I was 10. So transactionally, technically 10 years old, but it wasn't until 2008 that I opened up a sole proprietorship when I was in college, because as a byproduct of my pieces being featured on American Idol. It was still very much a hobby and a glorified hobby at that point, but I wanted to make it official because my name was alongside those like Rebecca Minkoff and Michael Kors years ago, when getting a credit on TV was a big deal. It still is a big deal, but that was, the only press outlet. And then it wasn't until 2 years ago that I started like a proper company. And it's interesting, I made that commitment and then everything just kind of boomed. So that's really why we haven't seen each other. It's because I made that decision, and because I made that decision, I think all the universe around me was like, okay, great, you're ready.
Yes, and everything lined up.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've been watching you like on social media and talking to you in between, and we've been texting and emailing each other, keeping in touch. And I am so excited about your growth.
Thank you.
And what I've seen, the transition that I've seen, and it's a transition from being this professional, successful woman with a business, and to creating this universe of a business that it has become.
This little world.
It's a whole world now. And so, like, it started from a bead kit.
Yes.
And now you're here.
Right? Forever and ever evolving.
Ever evolving.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Now, could you pinpoint the moment when in your mind you said, okay, this is really happening. This is a real business, and I need to take this seriously?
I feel like in true entrepreneurship fashion, I do that all the time. It's kind of like I have these moments where I feel like I wake up and I look around and I go, oh my gosh, look at this thing, look at this world, look at this universe. And then you do a little more, and then you do that. You open your eyes even more, and you open your eyes even more, and it's like you feel like you can't open your eyes more or see yourself in a different light. But that's just how it works when you're constantly trying to improve yourself and your product and your business. So constantly I have that feeling. In fact, recently, because we're taping this in the thick of holiday season, so I was reflecting on myself now and myself a year ago. I'm a completely different person. My business is run completely different. The product is completely different. The collateral, the imagery. I mean, someone might look at, the chronology of my art direction over the years and go, oh, I see some cohesion. But for me, when I look at it, it's so much more elevated and so much more me now. And maybe it's just subtle nuances, but I truly feel like I'm a different person, and it's in a year's time since we last seen each other.
But I love that point, because in creating a business and in the planning of it and the structure of it and all that, I feel like it does become more you. It's like you're moving it in a direction so that it does reflect who you really are. And it takes time to get there. And then it also evolves from where you were to where you are now at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. Oh. It's so interesting. When you say planning, I'm not sure how much planning is involved as opposed to diligence, a commitment to excellence and a commitment to diligence in getting things done. and doing them
Yes.
well.
Yes, yes.
Like beautifully, right? Fit like aesthetically beautifully, because it's a physical product in the fashion industry, but also with a moral compass. So beautifully from the inside out and the outside in.
Yeah, and it's amazing that you would say that, because we were talking a little bit earlier before the camera started rolling, and we were talking about what jewelry means to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to talk about that a little bit, because it's not a part of the questions that I had, but it was
Yeah.
something that came up that's really important. So I'm going to ask you that question. What does jewelry mean to you?
Well, what we mentioned earlier is that the business could be any product.
Right.
It happens to be a product currently that was my childhood hobby, so it has a little bit more meaning
Right.
to it, but it's ultimately not about the jewelry. It's about
Right.
the connection that whatever the product is creates between two people, between groups. We were talking about how jewelry is so special in that as an heirloom piece, it carries so many memories, or it can carry memories, or mark a particular event, or
Yes.
hold meaning based on who gave it to you. And it's kind of one of those pieces that is forever lasting.
Yes. Yes.
So you can pass it down to people, you can give it as gifts, you can change it throughout time to kind of fit your aesthetic as it evolves. It's just a really special industry. I feel so grateful that that is the thing that I'm currently doing.
Right.
Yes.
And you say currently doing, because we're going to talk
Because
about
who knows what
who
the
knows
future.
what the future. But I like the fact that you're open
Yes.
to what presents itself to you, and you can look at it and say, okay, that can become a part, or not right now.
Anyone that I look to in my life who is successful, and by success I mean both financially, occupationally in their career, but also in wealth of love and faith and relationship with people in their lives. Most of the time, if you ask people that you look up to how they got into something, they're like, oh, I just fell into it. Oh, this just happened. I thought I was going to do this, and then I went and I did this.
Yes.
So knowing that, kind of mirroring other people's trajectories, I'm very receptive. It's an adventure.
Yes, it is. Yes,
Yes.
it is. And some people call it like serial entrepreneurship, but I think it's an adventure when you're just open to what is presented to you and deciding if you are there yet or not, right? Wow. Now, are there a certain number of pieces that you create for your collection when you are deciding, I'm going to add these pieces? Is there a number that you have in mind?
No, in fact, I just kind of let the creativity flow, and then I'll edit accordingly based on what I think is cohesive
Okay.
and what complements the existing collection. But even yesterday, I sat down and did the task of designing several lines, and I think we came up with over 200 pieces in a day. So
That's amazing.
it's wild. It's wild.
But it also lends to who you are.
Yes.
Because you are a creator.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so to create 200 pieces, some people would find that mind-boggling, but for you, it's just what you do and who you are.
Well, what we spoke about earlier about just getting the thing done, it's kind of like I did all this work, and then I took a step back, and then I counted it.
Right.
I wasn't keeping a tally along the way.
Right. It's just, okay, these are the pieces, and you go, wow, there's 200 of them.
And then from that point, I could say, okay, well, that didn't look as though I imagined it in my mind, or that doesn't really look cohesive. This doesn't make sense for the brand, for my personal aesthetic. Like, how would I style this on a client? What else
Right.
would they wear with it, in the collection? So then from there, we edit.
Okay, so now with your pieces, do you carry a theme, or do you just create pieces that visually come to your mind? And how do you do that? Like, how do you create a piece? Do you do it manually, or do you have like a sketch and you sketch it out? How is it done?
All of the above. So I work in multiple different ways, using existing raw materials and manipulating those, and then I have my factory manufacture those. I also do sketches and send those to my designers, and then we have that manufactured. I also work with the factories, and we create molds that way. So each piece is very unique in how it's manufactured.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how it happens. I only really touch the samples, and then it's manufactured from there.
Right.
I used to make everything myself.
I remember you used to make everything
Yes.
yourself, and now you've had to go into manufacturing
Yes.
pieces and all of that.
Yes.
Now, your jewelry line has become so successful.
Thank you.
How are you juggling your many creative hats? Because you like the director of creativity. You've got so many hats that you're juggling, and you own the business. How do you manage all of that?
You just do the thing. It's right in front of you.
You have
it's like
to.
not. It's so not rocket science. It's for me. It's because anything could happen at any time. You know, I'm constantly putting out fires, which is the essence of entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So I know if there's a task that needs to be done, I'm constantly trying to hack it and figuring out what is the fastest and best way to get this done to meet the deadline so that I can move on to the next thing and move on to the next thing. And now that I do have a staff, it's great for me to be like, this is the task, and I can, you know, I can hand this off to this person. They're good at this particular skill. You know, I can kind of delegate.
Now, it's interesting that you said a part of being an entrepreneur is putting out fires.
All day long.
Because all day long.
All day long.
And I really want the young or new entrepreneurs or the people who are transitioning from having a full-time job into becoming an entrepreneur, or if they're doing it as a side hustle or whatever it is that have attracted them to being an entrepreneur, they need to know you're putting out fires all day long. That's a part of it, right?
Yeah. And I think the beauty, you know, a good entrepreneur when everything appears to be calm.
Yes.
Because, I mean, for me, it's like I'm damaged and nothing shocks me anymore. So,
Right.
because of being so many, you know, in the industry so many years and running a business for so many years, but also just kind of knowing that everything's going to be okay, but that is 100% part of the job.
Absolutely.
Most of the job.
Is putting out fires.
Yes. If you
and
choose to be,
critiquing.
yes, if you choose to be, you know, the business owner, the CEO.
And I think a part of that fire thing is when the fire happens, you know, figuring out how to put it out, learning from it so that it becomes a teachable moment.
Always.
It becomes a teachable moment.
Always. And doing it with grace.
And doing it with grace, not
Yes.
screaming and hollering at everybody.
No, it's
just
not
kinda,
worth it.
No, because that's expelling even more energy that you don't have to put into something that negative, right? You would more keep the energy, store it so that you can put out the next fire.
It's also not open heart surgery. This is jewelry.
That's what I say about this show.
It's supposed to be fun.
It's supposed to be fun. So when things happen or come up, I go back to that. Like, this isn't surgery. It's funny that you would use that analogy because that's the one I use.
Yes.
This, you know, we're not saving someone's mortal life here. You know, we're entertaining, and what you're doing is creating beautiful objects that can become an heirloom, that they can pass down, or like you said, give to someone as a memorable gift.
Yes.
Right?
Well, if the point of the product is to spark joy and to make the recipient feel fabulous, and that energy isn't on the inside of my business, there's a disconnect.
That's very true.
Like, I'm very much like an inside out kind of a thinker when it comes to how I want my staff to be treated and how they feel when they come to work, and then also how the clients and the customers feel.
Now, because your business has like taken off, have you had to add more staff?
Yes.
And what is that process like for you? Adding people, because it's a family, you know,
Yes.
especially when you have a business that, like you said, is as passionate from the inside out as your business is. What is it like, and how many staff members do you have now?
I have upward of 10, not including any of the contractors that we bring in, not including any of the, you know, photographers, the manufacturers who have 200 plus employees, not including any of our vendors, any of our retailers. I mean, if I were to really count, it would be thousands
of people,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
in any given day that I'm, you know, corresponding with. For me personally, I do a trial period to bring someone in to kind of assess their skill set, see if it's complementary to the things that we have going on already, to get to know the person. I've been blessed with a beautiful network and continuing to meet people, and people wanting to refer their friends and, you know, contacts to me for job openings. So that's been a huge blessing. And I think because of that, the people that I have on my team they take a lot of pride in the relationship and the relationship that led them to me, but also the relationship that we have and the relationships that they have within you know, the office walls.
That's amazing.
Yeah
It's
'cause important.
It is very important who you work with is very important, because a lot of times, a lot of the people that you work with, you're working with them on a daily basis, and you're with them more hours than you are with anyone else.
Oh, yeah.
So it has to be cohesive.
Right. Well, it doesn't have to, but
Well,
it
it should
certainly
be.
lends to a better just environment in general.
Yeah. So would you go to the school of thought of hiring slowly? And I've heard people say, I hire slowly and fire fast.
Yeah.
Because you want to, if it's not a fit, it's not the right seat on the bus for either of you.
Correct.
So it's better to let that person go so they can go somewhere else where they can be happy and flourish.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And then make space in your business for the person
person
who is
who's
supposed to come in.
Exactly.
And also in all of that, there are lessons, right? So
Mhm.
if that didn't work, then there's something to be learned. And if it isn't
Right.
learned, then that same being in a different vessel will pop
Will
up
pop
again.
up again.
To teach you the same lesson.
Yes, and we don't.
Same as
want
in
that.
dating, right?
Right. If you don't learn the lesson,
Yeah.
that same person will pop up again in a different body.
That's why we have friends that constantly date the same guy or the same girl over and over again.
Or
It's-
marry them over and over
Yeah.
again. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother show, girl. We
Mhm.
have to do that one too. Within the amount of jewelry that you create, there's
Mhm.
this personal thing that happens. Like I told you, I was scrolling through your catalog,
Mhm.
and I saw this bolt of lightning,
Yeah.
and I said, oh, that's me.
Yes.
So I was so excited, right? And so there's a personal touch that you give to your jewelry right now,
Mhm.
and this handwritten,
Yes.
to the customer, which I find so endearing,
Thank you.
and it actually connects you. I mean, we already know each other, but
Yes.
for someone, I'm sure, that doesn't know you and they see this, and it's obvious that it's handwritten,
Mhm.
to see that even connects them to you and your jewelry and your product even more, because it becomes very personal then.
Right.
Like not only did you create this piece, you feel like that you created the piece with me in mind,
Correct.
because I'm that bolt of lightning.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so how do you maintain the personal in such a large-scale business?
We spoke of this earlier,
Yes.
and it's a challenge. I mean, there's certainly a chunk of time every day that is dedicated to writing the love notes. It means so much to me. That's why I'm doing this. You know what I
Yes.
mean? It does fuel my soul, but it's not just my hobby anymore. If I wanted to just
No.
have fun, make jewelry, like it would be a lot more joyful all the time for me to just make jewelry and not have a business out of it. So to bring that personal element into my business is very important, because there are so many other business things that you have to handle.
Yes, that aren't so personal and fulfilling.
Well, it's
right?
just the nature of running a business, right?
Yes.
It's not all frills and fun and creative, and it's the nitty gritty and it's the numbers. It's what you need to do to have a functioning, successful business.
Absolutely, but I think social media and marketing make it look like it's all glamorous
Of
and it's all
course.
pretty and everything and everyone is perfect.
Yes.
And when in reality, it's the combination. It is
Yes.
pretty and it is, enjoyable, but it's also a business. And like you said, it has to be scalable. The numbers have to make sense so that you can stay in business. And I think sometimes for entrepreneurs, that's the side of it that becomes daunting,
Yeah.
because they are creatives, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I always ask the people I interview, how do you balance the two, especially when you are such a creative?
Yeah.
And then you have to look over at that scary spreadsheet, and it can be intimidating, but you have to know where you are in business. And so how do you separate yourself that way? Or do you?
Because my calendar now, I used to have a little bit more leeway and a little time to be like, oh, I don't want to do that right now. I'll do that later. I don't have that luxury right now.
So
I'm
you have
so
to.
slammed in the best way. My calendar is very intentional and mapped out pretty much from the second I wake up to the second I go to bed. I don't have the luxury of really putting things to the side. I'm working with strict deadlines. I'm working with other team members who need certain things, or with my
Yes.
accountant, or with my business advisor, or with the federal government with taxes. Like they're,
Right.
I
there are
need.
certain entities that have to have the information.
Yes, and then also for my business to function properly, so that we're looking at relevant numbers.
Yes.
And strategies for moving forward. So for me, it's deadlines. That's how I get things done, and also knowing that at any moment shit will hit the fan, and I'll need to fix something.
Right.
So having, any block of time to do something like that, I do take advantage of.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's a situation where, as an entrepreneur, we have to, myself included, force ourselves to do that part of it. And the more successful you become, the less time you have to not do it, because you have to do it in order to stay successful.
Correct.
So I want, and that's a teachable moment. So please, entrepreneurs out there, handle your business. I know a lot of it is the creative side and the stuff we love to do, but there's a business element of it that has to be taken care of if you want to stay in business.
But also creativity, if you are creative and if you are someone like myself who balances both sides, which is such a blessing and also can be very challenging, creativity can strike at any time. So when creativity isn't necessarily at its highest for me, I know that that's my time to do the business aspect of things, because if I get sidetracked on something creative, I don't want to let that go.
Yes.
Because those are sweet moments.
Yes,
that you really want to lean into. So again, it's kind of this just this necessity to get things done and to meet deadlines and do things well.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you said you never know when creativity is going to strike or hit.
My luck, it's at midnight and I'm up till 4.
I'm thinking that for me, because I'll get a thought in my head and I go, oh my gosh, I need to write that down. And so, and there you go, and it's midnight, and
you're off.
There you go, you're off, right? And then you look up and it's 4 o'clock in the morning. You go, okay, this was supposed to be sleep time, right? So yeah, when you can get those times in, when you can take care of the business of it, which is not the favorite part, please do, because if you're creative, right, no matter what that creativity is, when it hits, it could be midnight.
For me, the business aspect has been fun because it's more interesting than anything. I just find this whole ecosystem very fascinating, and how it's functioning now, and how there's more people involved, and again, I'm just gamifying everything and making it fun. So for me, the business aspect is very interesting, and I also think it's important when driving the ship to know what all the different knobs and handles do, what all the different aspects of your business more or less do, so that you're not handing off a big portion of the business to someone and then God forbid they leave, and then you're in a space of not knowing what to do.
Exactly.
So I do think it's important for me, especially at this point in my life, to double down on those moments and really lean into learning those skills, so that as I add more people to my staff, I'll have an understanding, even though someone that I bring on might be more of an expert than I am, which they will be, and they should be, because that's just the nature of building a strong business. But it's hiring smarter than you, that kind of mentality. But having knowledge about it or some understanding of it is very important.
Absolutely. Now, and that's a moment I want to talk about too, is that for me, it was the opposite. I came from the business world into the creative world.
Yes.
And so for me, I was so focused on that part of it that I didn't give myself permission to really explore more this side of it, And so now that I've given myself permission, it's been a couple of years now, I see what I saw as the beauty in it. I actually see it now, if that makes sense.
Yes. It's a forever dance that we do, right? It's like, there's a lot of speak of balance. I don't believe in balance. To me,
there's no such thing to me. I mean, not for me.
That's stressful for me to think about balance, because to me, balance is like, I look at a scale or a teeter-totter and being perfectly
you
perfectly
take this
level.
bean off and put it over here, take this bean off and put it over there.
And to me, that's the visual of that. The word just doesn't resonate with me. I like to think of it as in a flow.
Yes.
So whether I'm like leaning into my creative side or leaning into my business side, so long as I'm breathing and staying grounded and I'm moving intentionally and doing, something throughout the day, then we're okay.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now I'm going to ask you a corny question. I'm sure a lot of people ask you.
I love corny questions.
Do you have a piece of jewelry that you've created, or pieces that you've created that are your favorite?
They're all my favorite. They're all my children, right? So I love the collection in its entirety. It truly is a reflection of me and my style, which I have refined very much so, especially over the last year, and really honed in on. But one of the pieces that always stands out is the Bowser bracelet, which you have.
Yes.
And it's just I mean, that is, when that piece happened, that was truly the start of a brand, of an aesthetic, of a recognizable piece that people still, over 10 years, have been purchasing. I mean, it sold out in my Black Friday sale, day one.
I know. You know how I know?
Because
I looked and I wanted the gold one. I have the silver and I wanted the gold.
Oh.
But I love how you didn't say sold out. What is the word that you use?
Waitlist.
Yes.
Well, it is. I mean, it's true. It's in production. It is on waitlist. Yeah.
But you know what? I love the waitlist versus sold out, because sold out is so final.
Yes.
And it was so heartbreaking. I hit that button and it said waitlist, and I was like, okay. At least I have hope it'll be back. And so,
you'll get an email. Don't worry.
Okay,
when it's
definitely.
Back. Yes.
Yeah, I love that. So thank you for the wait list versus the sold out.
You're so welcome. It's honest too. It's because things are in production.
Yeah, but I love that piece. You're absolutely right. I wear it a lot. And this new favorite of mine is this bolt of lightning.
And they both, it's interesting because the Bowser bracelet happened right after American Idol. So that was over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And the bolt pendant is a very recent piece, and the two of them are still very related.
Okay.
And they're not matchy-matchy, but they go together.
They go together.
Yes.
Which is why I was trying to order the gold one, because I wanted to matchy-matchy.
Okay, noted.
So, can I have one of the first ones that
you
come?
Got it, girl.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
That's what friendship does.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Text me. Yeah, right.
Is it back?
I know.
So, building a business has its ups and downs. And when the business isn't moving in the way that you want, what are some of the techniques that you use to get that lift again?
Well, I know that there are ebbs and flows in life and in business, right? So when the waves come, I try to not settle on the high highs, like to get super excited or to get super down when things aren't going that way, because I know that everything's temporary. And at any moment something could happen, right? And we spoke earlier about lessons. Everything's a lesson. Everything is a lesson. So if something isn't happening as fast as I want it to, or if I'm not getting a certain result that I thought we were going to have, it just means that the system needs a little bit of editing. Yes. We just need to shift it a little bit. It's because it's not ready. I mean, how many times did I say, oh, I'm ready to do this, I'm ready to do this, and then finally when something happened in my life, I was then ready. Right. Not the first time I said it. Exactly. So I just call it a lesson and just keep working on it. I agree. I agree. That's a good golden nugget for our listeners. Is that everything isn't always going to be way up here, and everything is not always going to be down here, but to understand that you ride the wave. And I mean, it's interesting. People recently have been telling me, I feel like your big break is coming. I feel like your big break is coming. So for the entrepreneurs listening who are on their journey and it hasn't really been that long, just to kind of stay the course. I mean, I've been making jewelry for over 20 years. Yes. And I've been making jewelry for over 20, selling it for 20, and have had, my first phase of the business for over 10 years. And now this next phase for about 2 years and some change. So it's like a 20-year overnight success. Right, exactly. Do you know what I mean? So just a kind of a little reminder to stay the course, and there will be ebbs and flows, and be kind to yourself. Yeah. Understanding that it's progressive. I don't know any overnight successes. I could be wrong, but overnight the tide can change that you were prepared for already, but it's not an overnight success. And I think, again, back to social media and marketing, I think sometimes it can look that way because of the way the pictures are captured. But in reality, it was 10 years, 9 years, 8 years, 5 years getting to that photo. Also, at the basis of it all, we're all human. Yes. So just because someone appears to be a certain way on social media, I think it's important for us to remind ourselves that they're also human, and we're also human, and everyone has their ups and downs and their ebbs and flows.
That's right.
And also, you can't judge someone on one specific moment of their life, whether that's their best moment or their worst moment.
Or their worst moment.
Like,
exactly.
it's not fair to...
On either end.
Correct.
Yeah. And it's not fair to you either, the person observing, because that sets a standard on both ends that's not realistic.
Correct.
You know? So, I love this conversation.
I know. We always have so much to talk
I
about.
know. Yeah. Now, what advice would you give someone who's planning to start their own line?
Do it.
I knew you were going to say
Just
that.
do it.
I knew you were going to say that. When I wrote this question, I said, she's going to say, just do it.
Just go.
Yeah.
Remove. Make a choice.
Yeah.
Commit and make a choice.
And do it.
And if that choice isn't working for you, then you pivot and you make another choice.
Exactly.
And then you grow and you move and you do it again and again, and that is how it happens.
It happens. And then you look up and it's 20 years later and you have a successful jewelry line that has it's the best collection I've seen. Honestly.
Thank you.
You know, honestly. And I love accessories.
I know we bonded over this
yes,
the first time
right?
we met. Yeah.
I love accessories. And so looking at your line, it's very visually entertaining. And it also has so many pieces that speak to you that
It's practical.
it's so practical, and they're stackable, and they're just...
And I want people to have stuff that lasts forever and that means something to them. You know what I mean?
And it's a quality piece.
It's a quality piece, and I'm a practical human and also a practical designer. So I'm well aware that any one person, myself included, because of my family heirlooms, doesn't have jewelry from just one designer. Even the designer has pieces from other designers, right? So I want these pieces to go into people's accessory wardrobes and go with things and be able to mix and match. And it's supposed to be fun.
It's supposed to be
It's supposed to be fun.
Not so serious. It's jewelry.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
It's supposed to make you feel good.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that's the bottom line.
Yes. Totally.
Now, as a successful businesswoman, I told you this the first time I met you when we actually sat down the first time I interviewed you. I really respect the fact that safety is a huge part of who you are. I just want to make sure that women understand that a part of being a woman in business is creating a safe environment.
Of course.
Not only for themselves, but for their employees.
Yes.
Right? And so that's something that I've observed that you do.
I mean, I've had conversations. I mean, I'm a kind person, but I'm also a very direct person, and I'm able to cut through the fat very quickly.
Yes.
And it's unexpected from someone who is so cheerful with freckles,
Right.
you know, and bubbly and you know, excitable when I walk in a room. I love
Right.
people and I love engaging with them and developing relationships.
Yes.
But I'm also very hyper aware of being taken advantage of financially.
Yes.
Because as a woman, I do put myself together well. So that's, you know, I oftentimes get prices that are increased from other clients.
Oh, yes.
I've also had often, you know, men speak condescendingly to me, and I speak up about that. I've also had men hit on me and have had to speak up about that.
Yes.
And kind of, you know, lay down the law, and if that isn't respected, then I leave gracefully, because we have the internet.
Right.
You're not married to any one manufacturer anymore.
That's right.
We have, you know what I mean, and there's no reason to stay in an uncomfortable situation in any capacity.
That's right. Now, when you're negotiating business, what advice would you give a businesswoman about negotiation, the negotiation process of their business?
What aspect?
As in, like you said, pricing or negotiating a contract for an item, because I think that there's a lot of women who are purchasing items to sell. So in negotiating those things, what are some tips you would give?
It's a case-by-case scenario, and it's also lessons learned over time, right? So I've also been in situations where I haven't negotiated, and I've learned my lesson.
Yeah.
It's a dance, as we've said. It's totally case-by-case, but there is value in asking. There is also value in paying full price and people receiving that from you and ultimately delivering a better product, a better service on their end, because people do respond to finances.
Right.
So there is a balance. There is a balance to it, and both are very valuable.
Absolutely.
It's valuable to pay a premium for something. It's also valuable to ask for a discount in certain instances. If you do that all the time, then a reputation will follow.
Exactly.
Yes.
And you don't necessarily want to have that be the calling card for your business.
Maybe you don't mind. Maybe you don't mind. Maybe that is just part of part of one's nature. But there's value in both.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One more question. How does one find you online? How does one find you, Marrin?
It's just my first and last name, Marrin Costello, on all platforms.
Yes.
Google will correct you.
And Google will correct you.
He will.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love that you having such a personal, your name attached to your business, and because of that, it being so personal. And like you said, all they have to do is put your name in, Marrin, and your last name, Costello, and they will find you everywhere, and Google will correct you.
Marrin jewelry, Costello jewelry,
Yes.
anything in that realm.
It comes up.
Yes.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Yes.
Now, what's next for you? What do you see next being for you? We can be talking about within the industry you're in, or vacation, or what some plans you have for next year. What's next for Marrin?
In general, my answer would be
general.
whatever it takes.
Okay.
Because as we spoke of earlier, you just don't know what's coming around the corner. So it's kind of
Exactly.
an exciting adventure. Short term, I do have a couple trips coming up, which I'm very excited about.
That's good.
One to the Bahamas with some of my family members for a little bit of a break after holiday, which will be so exciting and so relaxing. And then also my mom's side of the family is from Guam.
Yes.
And so I'm going with a couple uncles, a couple aunts, and my cousin to Guam.
Oh, that's going to be so nice.
To kind of, pay homage to our ancestors and our
Yes.
heritage, and kind of get to know our culture a little bit more. So that will be very exciting.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
As always, it's such a pleasure to get a chance to spend some time with you.
Always.
And I absolutely love you, and thank you again for taking the time, because I
adore
know your
you.
time is valuable, to come and sit down with Girl Talk. And
Yay.
you've given us some great nuggets, so thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And of course, I want you to come back
Always.
always and give us the update on what's going on in the world of Marrin.
Who knows what hair color I'll have next?
Oh, no, that's true, too.
Yeah.
What hair color
I
is
know.
next?
Yeah.
But I'd absolutely love to have you back.
I'd love to come back.
Thank you. And that wraps our show for today. I'm just having a wonderful time sitting here chatting with her. We're going to do some more talking offline, and you might get to see some of that and maybe not, but I'm going to continue this conversation.